last story, a lot more serious. This is our main story. This is brought to you by NBC News. Clemson, we're switching gears like we've never switched before, everybody.
Yeah.
Clemson students protest removal of tampons from men's restroom.
I think we can laugh about this. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm also laughing because like it's such a shift in the tone, and I just think it's funny. How we go from I have to run from dialects to
no, it's like we talk about like, oh my gosh, how crazy would it be to live in a dystopia, and now we're like, actually,
no, good point. Good point.
Here's reality, which is looking a little off as well.
So, Clemson University students protested the removal of tampon dispensers from the men's library bathrooms in response to a conservative student group's complaints. Holding brightly colored signs reading "Destigmatize menstruation" and "Hello, it's the 21st century."
Wait, I'm sorry, what? Destigmatize menstruation?
Menstruation.
Yeah, menstruation.
Yeah. What did I say?
No, I'm just like, destigmatize. They're holding a sign that says because men don't have access to tampons in the men's restroom, that's stigmatizing them for menstruating?
I think so. You know, a lot of this stuff doesn't always follow logic, but I think that is the direction they're trying. I think they're trying to say, like, I think they're trying to take how sometimes as women we feel like we have to like hide our pads and tampons, gotta be real quiet about it. So I think they're trying to like,
and there is like a stigma around like, oh, you've got a stain or something.
Right.
It's like, well, sorry.
Right. When it's like, it's just, you know, it's part of your body. So I think they're trying to like latch onto that. Men trying to take, we can't have anything.
Yeah.
Men trying to take.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to say. I'm not quite sure. Once again, it doesn't follow much logic. The feminine hygiene dispensers, the dispensers were removed after the Clemson College Republicans complained that they were found inside the library men's bathrooms. If you weren't aware already, Clemson University has tampon pad dispensers in the men's restroom located in Copper Library. We truly live in a clown world, the student posted on September 13th. Take Back Pride, who organized the protest, said that the sanitary products were, quote, unjustly removed from the restroom and are asking for them to be reinstalled, as well as the college Republicans to be reprimanded for their role in the removal. Take Back Pride claimed that the machines were vandalized after the student group complained about them. The dispensers were removed 3 days after their complaint. The chairman of the conservative group said, men are men, women are women. Of course, men cannot menstruate. Of course, we spoke out against it. Of course, these people think the opposite, and that's why they were out here protesting us. We simply stood up for biological reality. They reject what we believe, and so they want us to be removed from campus. Clown world, dystopian, as we kind of hinted at. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I have a lot. I guess my first thought is, how did they get there in the first place? Like, when did that happen? And also, like, what is Take Back Pride? Like, isn't Pride already
here
like a pro-transgender, gender-neutral, menstruators, birthing people movement? Isn't that already what it is? Why are we taking it back? Taking it back from who?
That is a valid question. I couldn't tell you. I thought they already had the Pride. I didn't know someone had taken it from them.
Do people actually use them? Like, are there transgender male? First of all, why don't you identify as a female if you menstruate? And if you do identify as female, shouldn't you be using the male bathroom? Or do you identify as a male, yet
I think so.
You menstruate? So you need to go to the men's bathroom?
Yes. So the reason they're in there is so I was listening to another podcast talking about this, and they made a good point. There's probably 3 on campus, like statistically.
Yeah.
So they probably would save more money and time if they just gave them the 3 people a box every month, you know?
Or just like had them in a general area.
Yeah. So the idea is, I'm guessing, for people who were born biologically female and then they have transitioned so that they have tampons in the restroom, but realistically, it's just, it doesn't make sense, because aside from the fact that men don't menstruate, like I said, it's probably three on campus. It is such a crazy thing for us to deny, like, biological reality. And I think the reason why it's so crazy, the reason why so many of us, especially on the right, are so gung-ho about it, is because
people have actually fought for the right to have a tampon dispenser in a women's restroom.
And because when you deny, like, biological reality, it starts to deny, like, I hate to be the slippery slope, but, like, that's just kind of like the beginning of denying other things of reality. And we have to operate in reality to continue to be a functioning society. I think that's
writing that down.
that's like the biggest thing. We have to operate in reality to be a functioning society. If we start, denying these things, and we start denying this thing, and we start thinking 2 + 2 is actually 5, it will throw everything off. And some might argue that could be the overlords, whoever's in control of all of this, that could be their plan. Some could argue that. I don't know. I do know that we cannot begin to deny biology. One of the things, I remember learning this a couple years ago, certain medication dosage, certain, I'll just say medication doses, you need to know someone's biological gender so that they can get the appropriate amount. It is so important for us not to deny these things, not to give into these things, especially when it comes to medical decisions, because it can truly hurt people. And as I've mentioned many a times on the podcast, I'll never forget that TikTok where the girl said she thinks that her therapist made a comment that she could just be non-binary now because she just doesn't want to be a woman because of her sexual assault. I'm not saying every non-binary girl is like that. I'm not saying every transgender girl is like that. I'm saying that this is a real thing that happens. I'm saying this is something that isn't, like, it's not something to take lightly. I think that these things are real. Like, there's real reasons why a woman would all of a sudden want to be considered a man. I think these are things
it's
that
a reaction to something.
Yeah. So I really, we have to speak up. Well done, Clemson College Republicans. You have to speak up and speak out against these things. And we have to do it in our conversations too. And it is hard to have this conversation sometimes, because the reality is we do want everybody to be happy and, like, to be comfortable in who they are or who they believe they are.
Yeah.
We want that for people, but we cannot deny reality. I think that is my biggest concern about all of this stuff, about even the idea that babies aren't babies when they're in the womb at 30 weeks.
Right.
My biggest concern is, like, the more you deny these things, like, it just trickles into other things, that we cannot operate as a functioning society. We are hurting people. It starts to hurt people. It starts to break down families. It's just not, we have to operate in reality.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing about having these conversations for me is, like, nobody wants to offend someone. I mean, even if I'm talking to my fellow female friends, like, I have friends that I'm sure would believe in the right to access menstrual products for anyone. And of course, I believe in that too. I believe if a man needs tampons, like, he should be able to buy them. Like, I'm not saying that, like, I don't believe you should have access to it. I mean, I don't want you to bleed out. I don't want you to I want you to be hygienic.
Right. God forbid you free bleed.
Yeah, but am I participating in an ideology that I actually don't believe in? Or am I being a normal person? Like, that's a line that I really struggle to communicate with people. And not only that, but in a way that's like not going to be automatically deemed as offensive. Like, I have no offense in my heart. I have no malintent. Like, I really want to better understand trans people. I really want to better understand these people that felt like they did need this, and like now it's going to be humiliating having to go buy them, or maybe they really relied on these tampons like for comfort and security, like and they can't go into the women's restroom for some reason. Like, I want to understand that. I can't participate in it and I can't endorse it. But like, I think there's I think there are two conversations. I think there's one conversation about the logistics of like, if somebody needs a tampon, if somebody needs access to something, they should get that. But what is the overarching theme that's being endorsed by having tampons in men's restroom? Like, what is Clemson's statement? That's a different question on like men in women's spaces, and that seems like it's being answered. So while I'm very sympathetic with the logistics of this, I'm not as sympathetic to Clemson's stance on men in women's spaces and claiming to share women's struggles. See what I'm saying?
Freeman, once again, that is such a good explanation.
Aw.
I think you're
I feel like I don't think I made that. I don't think I'm making that clear. Because like, I don't have the answer.
Well,
That's the thing.
think
I
you're
don't
right.
I don't know how to toe that line. I don't know how to be sympathetic without not
Right.
endorsing. Like, I don't know how to not be offensive if every single time I open my mouth it's freaking offensive. Like, do I just embrace that I'm offensive, or do I still try to resist that? Like, I don't know.
Well, I think like what I always try to do, and what an overarching thing in the podcast I try to do, is like always tell the truth, but say it in grace and love. I believe we're telling the truth, and I think we are offering grace and love. I think like sometimes the truth is offensive. I mean, the gospel is offensive. The gospel in and of itself is offensive. We just have to continue to tell the truth, but if we're doing it in grace and love, I think it is more likely to be received in a positive way. And it's more likely for the seeds to be planted. Because the reality is, if it's your first time listening to this and you disagree with everything we said, I don't necessarily know if we changed your mind. If we did, please let me know. That would make me feel so good. But if we didn't, it is what it is. But ideally, we would have planted a seed. This might be your first time listening to people with these type of opinions that also aren't calling you that ugly and you'll never get married and you're gonna die with cats. Like, hopefully, that's not the spirit we're coming at this from. And I do think I think you're making a good point. You made a good point when you said they still need tampons. So that is something but the thing is, like, they don't have to, like, Clemson doesn't have to provide it in the men's restroom. They can go purchase them themselves. Like, no one's stopping them from that. So I do think you're right. Like, Clemson has a duty not to give into that. As an institution, they should not be giving into they have to operate in reality as an institution.
That just answered my question. Thank you for saying that. That's a great way of putting that. Thank you. You just helped me.
And the last thing on that, I also want to say, like, the clerk at the grocery store has to sell them the tampon. The clerk also doesn't know if it's for them or someone else. But the clerk has to sell them. Clemson does not.
Because the logistics, like, I'm thinking logistically, like, would I rather stomp my foot and have you bleed out, or like get, blood everywhere? Or would I rather participate in the logistics of needing Because I mean, Michael Scott uses pads for like his armpit sweat. Like, I mean,
oh my god, yeah.
like
Yeah,
I
that's funny.
support him. I support him using pads for that. Like, this is great. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I don't know if I'm making I don't know if I'm making any sense right now.
I will say
I want to
you
be
lost.
empathetic to the logistics.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Yes, yes. And I think we can. Like I said, like they can still receive pads, but the institution should not give in to that. So yeah.
Because it's a statement. Unfortunately, everything is a statement. Not
Right.
saying something is a statement, saying something is a statement. Saying the word inclusive is a statement to the left. Like, everything is
Yeah.
a statement, as much as it sucks.
Yeah. I mean,
Not having it would be a statement. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, we can even attest to that, just like having a platform, you know, saying something, not saying something, people automatically make assumptions on like what you said or didn't say. But I do think,
Yes.
I will say though, like if they hadn't done it at all, I think they wouldn't have. I mean, same with the bathroom bill in North Carolina. Like if nobody had said anything at all with the tampons, it wouldn't have been a thing. Like if they had just
I
not
feel
done
like
the
it would
tampons
have.
there. You think so?
I feel like it would have. I feel like somebody would have like prompted them to like be gender inclusive or whatever, and they'd have to make a statement. I mean, by not doing anything, that's a statement. By doing something, that's a statement. Everything is a statement.
Fair, I guess, and I guess on college campuses across the country, kids are like demanding tampons
Yeah.
in men's restrooms.
I mean, it's gonna happen everywhere.
Yeah, I guess
Everywhere.
that's fair. Well, thank you, Clemson, for taking them down. I think that was the right move, and good on you, college Republicans of Clemson, for standing up and saying something that was needed. Should we do the last thing we talked about, or call it a wrap?
Yeah. Let's do it.
So there's this list going around Twitter. This is a fun one, guys. Fun story. Back to fun stories. There's a list going around Twitter where women